After doing retrospectives on skateboarding games in the Tony Hawk's and Skate franchises, I received lots of comments on my videos and posts requesting retrospectives on some of the more forgotten Tony Hawk's console games. The next series of retrospectives will be for what I'd like to call the Post Underground Trilogy, including Tony Hawk's Project 8, Tony Hawk's Downhill Jam, and Tony Hawk's Proving Ground. We'll start this trilogy with Tony Hawk's Project 8, the game which brought us a realised open world and real-world physics and animations. My name's OneHip, and thanks for clicking on this video. Thank you to those who watched all or any of my retrospectives, and for those who are new, welcome. Anyway, let's go. In the mid-2000s, open-world games were evolving rapidly, becoming more ambitious and technically impressive. This era saw developers experimenting with seamless environments, larger maps, and greater player freedom. Games like GTA San Andreas, Elder Scrolls Oblivion, and The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess pushed boundaries with massive explorable worlds, dynamic systems, and non-linear gameplay. At the same time, open-world design was becoming more mainstream. While Tony Hawk's American Wasteland was ambitious in trying to create an interconnected open world with its loading tunnels and corridors, Project 8 integrated this properly with the introduction of true open exploration. While some implementations were limited by hardware, the trend clearly pointed towards player freedom, persistent environments, and immersive world building. Tony Hawk's Project 8 was released on November 7, 2006 in the US, November 15th in Australia, and November 17th in Europe on the PlayStation 2, Xbox, and Xbox 360. The game was released on the PlayStation 3 as a launch title on November 17, 2006 in North America and March 23, 2007 in the PAL regions, while a PSP port was released on different dates between late 2006 and early 2007 across the world. The PSP version is the only one with a proper classic mode, as the other versions have classic challenges within the open world which are very similar, and I'll get to those later. The game was developed by Neversoft and published by Activision. For the review, I played the PS3 version via emulation on RPCS3, with a patch that increases the frame rate from 30 to 60 FPS. Poor frame rate was a criticism of the game at the time of its release. And full disclosure as well, I've never played Project 8 prior to this video, so I'm going into this with fresh eyes. So there may be some stuff that I didn't discover or I'm unaware of in the game. When you boot up the game, you're introduced to the weirdest Neversoft opening that I've seen up until this point. The main crux of the game is Career Mode, where you complete challenges in order to rise through the amateur rankings to make Tony Hawk's illustrious top 8 skaters, called Project 8. The challenges are named goals once again after being called missions in the previous installment, and for each goal you're ranked based on what you did within it. If you meet the minimum, you receive an AM score. If you exceed it, then you receive a Pro score, and if you reach the maximum that's offered, then you get a 6 score. As you complete goals, you increase your rank. I really liked this tiered goal system, and you can still beat the game in a reasonable time frame with just AM scores. Pretty much all of my goals were either AM or Pro, as the divide between the two wasn't too wide, but the gap between Pro and Sick is absolute madness. For example, doing a jam competition and getting a Sick goal required me to get at least 1 million or more points in a short time frame, and I probably only got a handful of Sick goals in my playthrough. Some of the Sick requirements were just outrageous, and they definitely catered for the hardcore fans and completionists. For tricks you perform in front of NPCs, you receive in-game currency called tokens, which you can redeem at the skate shop for decks, specials, and pro tricks. You unlock skater videos and unique motion capture animations to every skater in the game as you play through Career. You have a window of opportunity to roll out of bales when they occur, and ragdoll physics are in the game where you can break bones depending on how you land, and you can control your movement while in a bale. It's not extensive like Skate 3's Hall of Meat feature, but it can be hilarious at times. Goals in the game include jams, competitions, demos where you impress the crowd with tricks, races, pro challenges, photo and film shoots, bail challenges, which I did not enjoy at all, and get theirs, basically time trials, among others. There's also a classic goal where you do challenges within a small area and with a 2-minute window like the old games, and you can achieve one of the 3 tiers depending on how many of the goals you achieve through your runs. Spot challenges also appear with challenges like grinding, wall riding, and manualing, also with goal tiers. Stats increasing with gameplay returns from Tony Hawk's Underground 2, which was a big relief, and most features from previous titles return here, including getting off your board, but this plays a very small part in the game. There are designated areas of the world where you can add and move assets like rails and kickers to achieve goals, but you can't place them just anywhere. These pieces snap to assigned parts of the grid. The most notable addition to Project 8 is Nail the Trick. The camera focuses on your board and you use the left stick for front foot and right stick for the back one, which allows you to perform regular tricks and create your own ones with different joystick combinations and in slow motion. It took me a little while to figure out, but it's a pretty cool feature once you get the hang of it. You perform Nail the Trick in designated challenges, and you can bring it up anytime in free roam by clicking both joysticks in after doing an ollie. You can also add Nail the Trick to your regular combos for huge points. The game incorporates more realistic physics and motion capture, which grounds the usual arcade gameplay that the series is famous for. You can still pull off some pretty big combos, but the added weight from these new mechanics stop you from going absolutely bananas with them. I found it frustrating at times when the game wanted me to achieve goals that would have been easier with the old style mechanics, but with the more weighty physics, and some goals took several goes to complete, even with increasing stats. There were also times where I had to grind around different areas, but I just couldn't build up speed to do them no matter what I tried, and that frustrated me to the point of abandoning the challenge entirely. I wish some of the goals were in line and achievable with the updated physics engine. Remember that I never played this game before. This was a bit of a shock for me when I first started playing, but I'm sure veterans of this game know what they're doing. When landing from a great height, you slam into the ground with an animation, and side note, the caveman animation is very good, much like many of the other mocap motions. For some challenges, and when you're being chased by NPCs you run into, there is a camera view on the top right hand corner which adds to the skateboarding film shtick that the game is going for. For being chased, if you are caught, then you're hit and you lose tokens. Project 8 is set in an unnamed city with a diverse range of areas. For the PS3 and 360 versions, these include Suburbia, which is the starting area, Skate Park, Main Street, the Capital, City Park, Hilltop, School, which is probably one of the best school maps in the series in my opinion, Slums, Factory, and Fun Park. You can also find secret areas and gaps by triggering certain events or finding golden Neversoft logos across the world. The other versions of the game have some of the same areas, but also different ones. And unlike the 7th generation versions, the 6th gen ones have levels rather than one big open area. The PSP version also has maps from previous titles as part of its classic mode. My favourite areas were School, Slums, and Factory. And besides feeling like City Park and Capital could have been one level, each area felt unique with their own styles. You can unlock alternate entrances and exits to different areas as you do goals. For example, when you do the goal for the nerd in School, you can access Slums, which then also connects with City Park, which then connects with the Capital and Main Street. This is one part of the game that I liked a lot. I really appreciate Neversoft swinging for the fences in terms of level design in this game, and I think that Project 8's open world is incredibly underrated in the gaming sphere. The story is quite light compared to previous Tony Hawk's entries, but I'll do my best. You're a skater living in Suburbia, and you're ranked 200 in the amateur skating rankings. You create your skater and play the optional tutorial, and sadly, you have to create another skater within career mode, and you have no option to import a skater from the main game, which is kind of frustrating. A news reporter is interviewing Tony Hawk, who says that they're in town putting together a team of the 8 best skaters called Project 8. You start in Suburbia and do things like shagging dad's balls. Yes, that's the name of the goal. Getting in a photo shoot and a spot challenge with some mailboxes. You can enter your room in Suburbia at any time to customize your clothes. You move up on the AM rankings, which you can see in skater options. You receive your first video message on your funky Nokia, which gives you tips about items and features in the game. You head to the skate park by wall planting the gate, and you meet Rodney Mullen and unlock his day in the life video. A filmer records you doing tricks to help you get noticed for Tony's team, and you complete a pro challenge with Rodney and you learn Nail the Trick. You go see the beaver mascot back in Suburbia, and you fly off the ramp and open the gate and leave Suburbia with the help of their RC. You unlock a photographer and Rodney's behind the scenes movie. You meet Jason Lee in Main Street outside the skate shop. He also plays Coach Frank in an in-game advertisement, and he definitely was never seen again in any other skateboarding game. And you land tricks for tokens to exchange at the skate shop for items. You get sponsored by Jason's company Stereo and move up the ranks. You give the beaver mascot money for dance lessons by putting up posters. Tony sends a video message promoting the Hilltop competition at the fun park to get an idea of who could potentially be in Project 8. Jason invites you to own spots, and another skater invites you to local jam sessions. For every 10 rankings you go up as you do challenges, you receive a new sponsor. You meet up with several pros and complete their pro challenges, and you unlock their videos and special tricks that you can use. You speak to the security pirate at Beaver High School, and he doesn't let you in as he says that the doors will open in an hour's time. You get help from the colonel to enter the school by helping him retrieve documents from the secure Capitol building. You help wind the clock tower forward 1 hour, which triggers the school bell and unlocks that area. You meet with a nerd who asks you to mix various solutions and elements to complete an experiment, and the results blow up a wall and you can access the slums. You help the shag ball dad who works at the Jeep factory by being his literal crash test dummy, and the walls to the factory open up. You help a news reporter enter the fun park to beat the other reporters to the scoop, and you unlock that area, which is the final part of this open world. Once you reach 9th in the rankings, Tony Hawk comes up with a set of challenges to decide if you'll be in Project 8, and you're introduced to him by Jason Lee, which is kinda weird considering Tony has seen you many times during competitions. You excite the crowd so Tony can escape the attention, Jason films footage of you performing tricks, and you meet Tony outside a fun park for the finale. A grand spectacle of big air with the Birdman, and one last nail the trick, and you make Project 8. You unlock the Bales 2 video and the credits roll. You can do more challenges post-story to make it into the top 4 if you wish to do so. The main menu of the game is probably the most uninspiring one I've seen so far in the series. If you remove the Tony Hawk name from the title, you would easily think that this was a game from another series. As well as career mode, you can also free skate as your career or other skaters in areas of the world that you've unlocked in career mode. And like I mentioned earlier, it's a shame that you can't select your non-career skater to be in career mode. Creator Park is no longer in the game, which sucks, and you can watch pro videos as well as motion captured gameplay footage of pros performing certain tricks to showcase the mocap applied to the game. There are 45 skaters to unlock, including pro and secret characters you unlock in career. Create a Skater is also stripped back, with 5 presets, including a child skater, and minimal customization options. The game's focus was clearly on the physics in the open world based on my observation playing this for the first time. You can adjust the camera angle to match with previous games, but I stuck with the default option with a smaller field of view. You can play 2-player mode, but I didn't have a buddy to play with when reviewing the game, so I couldn't do that part. I feel that the other features in Project 8 that were mainstays in previous titles are severely lacking and even non-existent. The soundtrack is honestly a mixed bag. There's a blend of punk, hip-hop, metal, and classic rock, just like you'd expect. Some songs hit, some don't. Standouts for me were tracks from Slayer, Gnarls Barkley, and The Cure. Clubfoot by Kasabian plays in the opening video when you boot up the game. But compared to something like Pro Skater 2 or Tony Hawk's Underground 2, it didn't quite hit that same iconic level. Still, it did the job. Tony Hawk's Project 8 for a first-time player like myself is a mixed bag. With its ambitious and fully realised open world, mostly excellent level design, more realistic physics and motion capture, for better or worse, a deep trick system including Nail the Trick, some of its unbalanced challenges, a lack of additional features outside of career mode, and almost impossible requirements for most sick gold tiers, Tony Hawk's Project 8 is one of the weaker titles in the Tony Hawk's franchise that I've played. However, in saying that, there is enough here for this game to stand on its own, and the ambition from Neversoft to take risks with the technology they had at the time pay off on many occasions as you play through it. It may be daunting for Tony Hawk's fans who've never played this game before, but I think it's certainly worth a try. I would recommend playing the PS3 version via emulation and with the 60 FPS patch, which you can get from the Discord group 10K Rising. I'll leave a link in the description below. If you made it to the end of this, thank you so much for watching this highly requested video. What do you think of Project 8? Do you agree or disagree with anything I said? What are your opinions on the game? Do you think I did the game justice for those who love this one? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and be sure to watch my previous retrospectives if you haven't already. Be sure to like this video and share it with those who may enjoy this kind of content. Subscribe so you don't miss out on any gaming content on this channel. There are now memberships on here for a very low monthly price with some perks for those who join. My name is OneHip, and you have a good one. Bye!